गिरि गोवर्धन की, वृंदावन धाम की, मथुरा राम की, नवद्वीप धाम की, मायापुर धाम की, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की, गंगामाई की, जमुनामाई की, तुलसी देवी की, भक्ति देवी की, सामपित भक्तविंद की, श्री युगदार हरिनाम संकीर्तन की, बृहद मृदंग की, ताय गौर प्रेमानंदी. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga.
Swami Maharaj Ji ki Jai. Let's welcome Maharaj by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Maharaj is Srila Prabhupada's glorious disciple, and Maharaj especially preaches to the Latin American areas. So Maharaj has come to ISKCON Dwarka. We are so very fortunate to have Maharaj here in ISKCON Dwarka. Haribol! And we would request Maharaj that in future also, whenever Maharaj is coming to Delhi, please come to ISKCON Dwarka. By default, there is an invitation to ISKCON Dwarka. Haribol! His Holiness Guru Prasad Swami Maharaj Ji ki Jai.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Go Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahanta Paribhasha Akacharya Ashtottara Shishimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaja Srila Prabhupada ki Vishnupada Paramahanta Paribhasha Akacharya Ashtottara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Thakur Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. A reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 22nd chapter, text number 5. Also, it's a pleasure to be here at the shelter of the lotus feet of Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish, Shri Shri Gaurnitai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi, and all the Vaishnavas, and of course Srila Prabhupada, who is universally there in all our temples, and hopefully in our hearts and consciousness. Not just for, an hour a day. Sometimes we have a tendency to be very ritualistic, and we come and take darshan and do our ceremonies, but we have to really meditate on all these bhajans that we're singing, like Shri Guru Charana Padma, and meditate. What does that mean? When I sing that, what am I asking for? Not that I just sing it and get it over with, and then go to the next thing, and then finally prasadam, something I can relish. So, Tava Sandarshana Deva Chiname Sarva Samshaya Yat Swayam Bhagavan Pritya Dharma Maha Virakshisho Tava Sandarshana Deva Chiname Sarva Samshaya Yat Swayam Bhagavan Pritya Dharmam aha virakshisho Tava sandarshana deva Chiname sarva samshaya Yat swayam bhagavan pritya Dharmam aha virakshisho Tava sandarshana deva Chiname sarva samshaya Yat swayam bhagavan pritya Dharmam aha virakshisho Tava sandarshana deva Chiname sarva samshaya Yat swayam bhagavan pritya Dharmam aha vivakshisho Tava sandarshana deva Chiname sarva samshaya Swayam Bhagavan Pritya Dhamma Mahavivakshisho Tava Sandarshana Deva Chiname Sava Samshaya Sanandavajanya Namadhyam Vaishnavis. Tava sandarshana deva Chiname sava samshaya Yan swayam bhagavan pritya Mahavivakshisho Tava, your sandarshanat by sight, eva, only, china, resolved, me, my, sarvasamshaya, all doubts, yet inasmuch as Swayam, personally, Bhagavan, your Lordship, Pritya, lovingly, Dharmam, duty, Aha, explained, Vivakshisho, of a king anxious to protect his subjects. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Now I have resolved all my doubts simply by meeting you, for your Lordship has very kindly and clearly explained the duty of a king who desires to protect his subjects. Everyone can please repeat. Now I have resolved all my doubts simply by meeting you. For your Lordship has very kindly and clearly explained the duty of a king who desires to protect his subjects. Purport. Manu described herewith the result of seeing a great saintly person. Lord Chaitanya says that one should always try to associate with saintly persons, because if one establishes a proper association with a saintly person, even for a moment, one attains all perfection. Somehow or other, if one meets a saintly person and achieves his favor, then the entire mission of one's human life is fulfilled. In our personal experience, we have actual proof of this statement of Manu. Once we had the opportunity to meet Vishnupad Shishimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, and on first sight, he requested this humble self to preach his message in the Western countries. There was no preparation for this, but somehow or other he desired it. And by his grace, we are now engaged in executing his order, which has given us a transcendental occupation and has saved and liberated us from the occupation of material activities. Thus, it is actually a fact that if one meets a saintly person completely engaged in transcendental duties and achieves his favor, then one's life mission becomes complete. What is not possible to achieve in thousands of lives can be achieved in one moment if there is an opportunity to meet a saintly person. It is therefore enjoined in Vedic literature that one should always try to associate with saintly persons and try to disassociate oneself from the common man. Because one word of a saintly person, by one word of a saintly person, one can be liberated from material entanglement. A saintly person has the power, because of his spiritual advancement, to give immediate liberation to the conditioned soul. Here, Manu admits that all his doubts are now over, because Kardama has very kindly described the different duties of individual souls. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Vinanjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivashari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So, tava sandarshanat eva. That just by having your darshan, when Satyaraj Khan inquired from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what is the hope for a grihastha like myself, lost, caught up in so many material activities? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Vaishnava Seva and Harinam Nirantara, that one should take shelter of the Vaishnavas and one should take shelter of the holy name. So he said, who is a Vaishnava? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in 3 consecutive years gave a increasingly deeper understanding. The first time he said, Vaishnava is one who chants the holy name once. That means chanting without offenses, because otherwise we would all be back in Goloka Vrindavan by now. So we have to chant without offenses. Ahaitukya pratyeta. Constant chanting and without any motive, with any desire other than pleasing Krishna. Samsiddhir haritoshanam. Haritoshanam, just to please Krishna. And then the next year he said, that's the neophyte devotee. A neophyte devotee can graduate from being a neophyte when they chant the holy name without offenses, at least once. I always say, in the U.S. they have a certain type of potato chip, and it says on the package, I bet you can't only eat one. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, if you chant the holy name without offenses, you cannot only chant once. He said, if you chant once, because he knows if you chant with purity once, then you'll chant so many times. You can't stop. So the third time, and the second time he said, one who's always chanting the holy name. That is a Vaishnava. That means Madhyamadikari, attached to the holy name, attached to devotional service, fixed on minimum. He's on the Nishta platform, maybe on the Ruchi platform, maybe on the Asakta platform. But then the next year he said, a Vaishnava is one upon whom seeing one will chant the holy name. So this is what Manu is speaking about here. He's just seeing Kardama Muni, and he's completely sarva samshayaha. As Krishna says, asamshayam samagram mam yajjasyasi tachtrinu. If you just hear from me, if you just hear this message that I'm saying, then all your doubts will be dispelled. And how should you hear? Maya sakta manaparta yogam yunjan manashrayaha. You should hear by being completely attached to me. That way hearing will be proper. Not that we think Krishna is some philosopher like so many people. Even one of the most intelligent persons of recent times, Einstein, he heard Bhagavad Gita regularly, but he could not accept that Krishna was a person. He had a Mayavad outlook. Why? Because he thought, how could God be so cruel to create the Holocaust? So he was such an intelligent man. He couldn't understand what Bhagavad Gita is talking about karma and how we get the results of our actions. So it's not a question of intellect. It's a question of purifying the heart. Chetodarpana marjana. Purify the heart. Shinbatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtanam. No. That this is the purpose of chanting. Her purpose is to glorify Krishna. But as long as we're conditioned, we have to accept the secondary purpose of purifying the heart. No. Because by purifying the heart, I can serve Krishna better. I can give him more pleasure. A Vaishnava is never desired, but as Srila Prabhupada says in the beginning of Nectar of Devotion, the only thing a devotee desires is to become a pure devotee. Not for my benefit, not so I can stop my suffering. If Krishna wants us to suffer, we will suffer unlimitedly. No. But, of course, we're not so anxious for that, but we have to come to the platform of Queen Kunti first. No. Such an exalted lady. No. We have no problem following such an exalted lady. No. And she said, give me unlimited difficulties, and that way I will give up my darshan of this material world and only take darshan of you. No. She said, she was saying this because she's standing before Krishna, he's leaving. So she said, when we were in the forest suffering so many reverses, you were always with us. And now we have a big palace, a big wealth and opulence, and you're leaving. So who cares about this opulence? But unfortunately, when we're conditioned, we think, let me get some opulence, let me get some money, let me get situated, let me do it, and then I can worship Krishna. Then I'll have proper facility. No. So this is China, Sarva Samshaya. All my doubts are gone. And then Yat Swayam Bhagavan Pritya. Now I understand that I should lovingly serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because you are lovingly serving Krishna, therefore I serve you. And because you are explaining to me what I should do. Arjuna said that to Krishna. He said, Yatstreya sanishchitam bruhi me. Please explain to me not what I want to hear. Sometimes we think, let me go hear what I want to hear. Or we go to the folio and we find something that I like, and then we look up all the quotes and justify it. Yeah, Prabhupada said I could do this. So that's the danger of folio. Folio can be very useful. You can find so much support, but we should find support for pravritti marg, for nivritti marg, not for pravritti marg. And some people like to support the pravritti marg. Of course, pravritti marg is authorized as long as you follow the religious principles. But a devotee is inclined to nivritti marg, the pathway of, because the more we're detached from this material world, although detachment comes from serving Krishna, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayat Yasyu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayada Hitukam. Knowledge and detachment are products of devotional service. If we try to practice detachment separately from devotional service, then, as Rupa Goswami says, it will simply harden the heart. A devotee is not interested in austerities. But any austerity that is favorable for devotional service, a devotee accepts it, because it is part of the bhakti process. It is a product of bhakti, not independent. So, Srila Prabhupada begins his purport by saying the importance of association. There's two verses here from Chaitanya Charitamrita I wanted to quote. This is Madhya Lila, chapter 22, 49, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructing Sanatana Goswami. Sadhu Sange Krishna Bhaktye Shraddha Jadi Hai Bhakti Pada Prema Hai Samsara Jayakshay. By associating with a devotee, one awakens his faith in devotional service to Krishna. Because of devotional service, one's dormant love for for Krishna awakens, and thus one's material conditioned existence comes to an end. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, and he quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:28. Yajicchaya matkatado jatashadas tuya pumam na nirvino nati sakto bhakti yogosya siddhida. Somehow or other, if one is attached to talks about me and has faith in the instructions I have set forth in the Bhagavad Gita, and if one is neither falsely detached from material things nor very much attached to material existence, his dormant love for me will be awakened by devotional service. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms again. Something got stuck here. Mat kripa bina kona kame bhaktanaya Krishna bhakti dure rahu samsara nahi kshaya. Unless one is favored by a pure devotee, one cannot attain the platform of devotional service. To say nothing of Krishna bhakti, one cannot even be relieved from the bondage of material existence. And Srila Prabhupada quotes, Mahatmanas tumam bhartya Daivi prakriti mahashvitaha bhajantyananya manaso gyatabhutatim abhyayam. So, and there are so many quotes, especially in this chapter, later on in this chapter 22 of Madhya Lila. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes the and related to what he says afterwards in the purport, where he says, us. This is the humility of Srila Prabhupada. He says us, that we have taken shelter. He's speaking about himself, but he's saying we to glorify the spiritual master, that he has given shelter to so many people. Not that I'm something special, that I was some special case. No, he was giving mercy to so many. And he says, somehow or another, he also gave it to me. This is how we should think. Not that I'm a special devotee, and therefore my Guru Maharaj sent me here and told me to do this, and I'm, we establish what they say, I don't know if they say it here, pecking order. I'm here, now I'm here, now I'm here. A devotee better, I'm here, here. And underground. So a devotee thinks like that. So Srila Prabhupada says this because lavanapi tulayama na swargam na punar bhavam bhagavat sangi sangasya matyanam kimuta shishaha. That if one gets not even 1 second, but a fraction of a second of association with a devotee. But Srila Prabhupada says, what kind of association is this? He says, there was no preparation, but by His grace, we are engaged in executing His order. So if the result of that association is that I will execute His order, this instruction has entered into my heart. And has transformed my consciousness. That can happen in a fraction of a second. Sri Narada Muni is also by association, by taking advantage of association, not by physical proximity. We get so many physical proximity. There were so many devotees and people who were right next to Srila Prabhupada, but they couldn't take advantage. Or some devotees took advantage while Prabhupada was present, but his potency was so great that they became surrendered devotees. But then after Prabhupada left, because that surrender, therefore surrender has to be as Krishna says, it has to be patipatena, with humility, and sevaya, and service, and pariprashna. One must be inquiring. One must be understanding more, how can I serve Krishna more deeply, with greater conviction? And that can happen in 1 second. And Srila Prabhupada gives his example. It happened. But even Srila Prabhupada existed. It wasn't just 1 second. 1 second is possible, but not very common. Otherwise we would all be in Vaikuntha, or Goloka Vrindavan. But Prabhupada gave a little resistance, that how can I preach the message if I'm coming from India, a dependent country? Let us first, he was in the Gandhi movement, and so let us first get our freedom from this oppression. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, oppression, no one is independent. We are all oppressed by Maya. So let us get freedom from that oppression. Doesn't matter what government is there. When Srila Prabhupada sent devotees to Russia, they said, but Prabhupada, they're communists. And Prabhupada said, then be a communist and chant Hare Krishna. Doesn't matter what the government is. Just like in my area of responsibility, Venezuela became very socialistic, communistic. I also have Cuba in that zone, all kinds of nectar places, but the devotees are chanting, and sometimes it is even more favorable. If everything's very nice and nice big temple, and then you get a little relaxed. If you're being oppressed and the material situation is miserable, then you take shelter of Krishna more easily. This is what Narada Muni's logic was with Manigriva and Nalakupara. He said, there's so much opulence, so we have to be careful. Krishna is giving a lot of opulence here. We never think it belongs to me. It is, I've been given this, just like Srila Prabhupada says in his purport to 256 in Bhagavad Gita. If I get opulence, if I get a favorable situation, I utilize it to serve Krishna and spread Krishna consciousness. If I have an unfortunate situation, then what do? I internalize. I take advantage. If I'm sick or difficulties or whatever, then I meditate more deeply on the holy name and beg for Krishna's mercy. Whatever the situation is, the devotee's reaction is the same. I must act for Krishna, whether I act internally or externally. Sometimes it's impossible. Just like in Russia, at one point, the devotees were put into jail. And so, what could they do? Not much more. Chant and beg Krishna's mercy. Some of them were put in jail in Chernobyl, where they were subject to nuclear radiation. And some of them got very sick, but they were just praying to Krishna. They were put in a cold cell in the Russian winter. It's a little cool here now in Delhi, but imagine, they throw you in a cell with no running water, and they just give you one blanket. It's like, minus 20 degrees. We don't even know what that is in Delhi. You have to go way up in the Himalayas to get that temperature. And you have to be a real yogi, to withstand that. We're not interested in becoming that kind of yogi. Spend my whole lifetime so that I can resist minus 20 degrees. We want to get 100, not 100 degrees, 100% Krishna consciousness. So it's very easy. Therefore, sadhu sanga, sarva shastra koi, lavamatra sadhu sange sarva siddhi hai. That just one moment, again, Shastra says, one moment of association with a devotee. But what should be the result of that association? Srila Prabhupada says, in the purport that a saintly person tries to disassociate oneself from the common man. No. This is Satsanga Tyag, E Vaishnav Achar, Shri Sangi, Eka Asadu, Krishna Bhakta Ar. That a devotee wants to give up the association of two kinds of persons. It says Shri Sangi because in the time when that was spoken, women were in much more of a submissive role. But nowadays, Stri Sangi means men attached to women or women attached to men. Either way. It always meant that, but it's more emphasized now because women have become more prominent. Women become more prominent because men become weaker. No. It's not a natural psychology, as Srila Prabhupada said. No. The natural psychology for men and women is given here in the Bhagavatam. But women naturally will react. If someone is suppressed and someone is not protected as they should be, naturally they will react. No. Natural. No. And if men are not doing their duty, no. Just like when Gorkishore Das Babaji, one man came, he was just married, and he came and he said, "Please give us your blessing." He said, "Yes, I will give you the blessing. You can wash her clothes. You can serve, and you can cook for her and serve prasadam. No, that is my blessing." He thought I was getting a servant. By marriage, I get a servant, do all these things for me. No, he said, "No, you have a grave responsibility to give Krishna. And to give Krishna, you have to have Krishna. So if men are not strong and they don't have Krishna, then women will become more prominent. And then that will create a mentality which Arjuna warns about in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It will kulakshaya, that the destruction of dynasty, the destruction of dharma, the destruction of real values. Here in India, it's still that way to some degree, although in the big cities now, it's not that women should not do things, they can do anything, but they should be doing it together with their husband. That's the best way. Queen Kunti was very powerful. She preached practically like no man is preaching in the Bhagavatam. After Prahlad Maharaj, her prayers are considered the most prominent prayers in the Bhagavatam. But she was prominent with her husband, because of her husband. She had those qualities, but she didn't want to exhibit them without her husband. So this is natural. But nowadays, men have become so irresponsible in most parts of the world, even in India, but less. Still, there's a little bit of culture here. But everywhere else, forget it. And therefore, women will exhibit those qualities independently. Not that we also just want to keep women suppressed. Although Prabhupada said in Varnashram, there was no systematic education for women. They were educated by their fathers, their husbands, their sons. Here we have this case coming up. Kapila Dev, he's just making the arrangement in this chapter that he will be born. So, and women would become very qualified. But Prabhupada said there was no need for formal education. They should learn how to cook and sew. Otherwise, they should know the basic skills of taking care of a family. And then they may be a nuclear physicist or something else. In modern society, both men and women are encouraged to go to the university. That's actually for Brahmins. Not only women, but men also. Vaishyas and Shudras, they didn't go to school. In Varnashram, they don't go to school. They just learn their trade. A Vaishya learns the trade by working with his father or uncle or whatever. And a Shudra learns to work hard from his father. And that's Vedic society. But now everything is all mixed up. And even in India, at least in the big cities, they're trying to follow the example of the West. So this will create disturbance. It's created so much disturbance in the West. It will create disturbance here. And who knows what it will take to actually, besides Srila Prabhupada's books, because people are not paying attention. People have a set of Bhagavatam in their house, but they don't want to, follow it's difficult, because you live in a society, it's difficult to be, for a woman just to be, I'm cooking, I'm sewing, I'm doing this, I'm reading the Bhagavatam, I'm submissive. That's difficult, because the atmosphere is not conducive to that type of behavior. So anyway, I didn't want to get on a Varnashram talk, but because it's difficult to establish Varnashram. Prabhupada wanted it to the degree that is possible. In many places, how much is it possible? That we understand there are intellectuals, there are administrators, there are business people, and there are workers. That's as far as you can go in most places. You just understand there's natural propensities. But as far as dividing society, that requires, that's going to require, in India, it can be done to some degree. Even then it's difficult. So the main thing is bhakti. So one should disassociate oneself. This is how to do that is given in the Bhagavatam. Dharmasya hyapavargyasya nartota yopakalpate nartasya dharmikantasya kama labhaya hishvitaha. It says that dharma is meant for becoming detached from this world. And therefore one should utilize dharma in that way. But inevitably, there will be some kama, there will be some pleasure. But it should never be used. We should never think dharma is meant for that. So what do we do with this pleasure? Kamasya nendriya pritir. There will be some sense gratification. Naturally, when we take prasadam, we don't want to just eat rice without salt. We want to take the Lord's remnants, which means it will be very delicious. So there will be some pleasure. Labho jivata yavata. It is meant for keeping the body and the soul together. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. But the actual real purpose of life is tattva jigyasa, is to understand the absolute truth. Narto nascheta karma bi. That is the actual work of a living being. So that is the process. We minimize sense gratification as much as possible. Prabhupada said, Grihastas, they have, Prabhupada said, little license, not unlimited, not unlimited sense gratification. Not now I'm married for the next 25 years, no stops, full on sense gratification to the highest degree. And then when I'm 50, but if you live like that, even at 70 you won't be able ready, I had one devotee, one godbrother, he was 65 years old. His marriage was never successful. And then his wife left. He said, so he asked me, he said, Maharaj, do you have like a 13, 14-year-old girl that wants to get married? I said, Prabhu, you're like 60-some years old. If you need to get married, find a 60-year-old lady, You can serve together. He said, no, that's okay. I said, when you're, I think he was 60, when you're 80, she will be 30. He said, no, my horoscope says that I can work up until 85 years old. I said, Prabhu. I said, no, I don't think that would be a very good arrangement. So this is, Maya is very powerful. Prabhupada said, any 80-year-old man wants a 20-year-old girl, meaning karma. And we know the story of the king. King is dying, and he said to his minister, now I have finally become detached from this world. So the minister sent one young girl to walk in front of him, and the king's going, no. So it's not so easy. No. So therefore Prabhupada said, don't wait until your last 3 years to become detached. He didn't say 7 days. No. Parikshit Maharaj could do in 7 days. No. Because he was already a great devotee. So we should not think, 7 days, well, give me 7 months. No, I can probably be. I had one godbrother, he was really into sense gratification. He had this big, this was 1980 something, he had this big screen, which was like not very common at that. It was not like nowadays. I mean, it was like as big as the wall for watching television. And I said, Prabhu, you're like, I think he was like, 50 years old. I said, you should give this up. He said, no problem. When I'm ready, I'll give it up like that. And so I visited him like 15, 20 years later, and he was still, I said, what happened to you giving it up like that? He said, yes, it's not, you were right. I should have started 20 years ago. So we should be very careful, and giving up, because as Krishna warns us, Dayato Vishayan Pumsan, Sangasteshu Pajayate, Sangjayate Kama, Kamat Krodho Vijayate, that if you contemplate the objects of the senses, just like a man may see a woman or a woman may see a man, and they become attracted, and then they're thinking, they make all these arrangements. How's my hair? I want to look very intelligent or something. Make all these things go into them. But if you don't see that person, then that won't happen. Just like I say, even a dog can be a brahmachari. If you're having in a fenced area and there's no female dogs, he's brahmachari. So it's all a question of meditation, contemplation. So the way to be a brahmachari or brahmacharini, or single person serious in spiritual life, is that you contemplate Krishna. Param drishtva nivartate. You get the higher taste, and we're not so interested in these in lower tastes. So, and then if you can't control your anger, krodat bhavati samoha, you become bewildered. And then somahat shmiti vibhrama. And then from bewilderment comes loss of memory. Loss of memory. Otherwise I can't remember what Krishna is saying because I'm so engrossed in sense gratification. And then shmiti brahmashad buddhinasho. And then from loss of memory, we lose our intelligence. Buddhinashat pranashati. And then again, in the whirlpool of material existence, samsara, another birth, another opportunity to become confused. Because samsara means that, opportunity to become confused. It's not an opportunity to become Krishna conscious. It is in one sense, but that requires, as Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing here, saintly persons. So this is so dangerous. Therefore, Jad Bharat said to King Rahugana, Rahuganai tat tapasa nayati. You can't obtain Krishna consciousness by austerities. Nachaj jaya nirpanad grihadva. Nor can you attain it by worship, like we're worshiping the Lord. But because we're doing it to please Krishna, that worship is wonderful. But you can't just worship like so many people. They have their altar with so many devas, I went to one place in southern Karnataka, and we went to this one man's house. He had a big board. His altar was a big board, and all the devas, like little pictures like this. I don't know how many, like 200, 300 devas. And at the end, he had Superman. So I said, "Why Superman?" He said, "Well, just in case." And I said, "Well, then you must put Spider-Man and this one and that one. You have to put them all just in case, no? And then you better put everybody just in case. So your altar will be the whole world, the whole universe, just in case, no?" So he understood. I don't know what happened afterwards, but so not by gorgeous worship, not by renunciation, no, or by sacrifices, by Agnihotra, no, Yachchandaya, not by studying the Vedas, no, not eva Jalagni Surayar, or by submerging oneself in cold water in the winter, or surrounding oneself by fire in the summer, no, not by, no, Bina Mahat Pada Rajobhishekam. And not by any of these means. The only way is by taking the dust of the lotus feet of the devotee on one's head. And Prasad Maharaj said the same thing. Mahiyasam pada rajobhishekam. No. Niskinchana nam nivrittayavat. That only by taking shelter of the niskinchanas, the devotees of the Lord, that's the only way that we can achieve it. Otherwise, we will not achieve the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Impossible. No. So, this is what's being recommended here, that we have to associate with the devotees of the Lord. Just one final point, and then I'll stop. I was speaking about this yesterday, and I've been quoting this a lot because it's such a wonderful instruction by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami, speaking about how valuable the association of devotees is. Of course, Krishna says also, Machchita madgana prana poryanta parasparam katyanchastamam nichan tushanti cha ramanti cha. By associating with devotees, because what do devotees do? They enlighten one another about Krishna consciousness. This is what association means. Shravanam kirtanam. No. This is association, not that we go to the movies together. No, and that's not association. That Bhaktivinoda Thakur said there's two types of association, no, with devotees and non-devotees. So, and there's two types of maya, bad association and bad attachment. Bad attachment means it goes against our spiritual advancement. No? So therefore Lord Chaitanya said to Sanatana Goswami that Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula, that the root cause of devotional service is Haya Sadhu Sangha, is association with devotees. And that Krishna Prema Janme Tengho Puna Mukhya Anga, that even when one achieves Krishna Prema, that still the association of devotees is the most essential thing. Just like the six Goswamis, they wanted to be together because a devotee, a pure devotee, never considers himself to be a pure devotee. And therefore, when one actually has Krishna Prema, one is more desirous of association, because one wants to have one's bhakti lata nurtured more and more by other Vaishnavas. No. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, before beginning the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he took permission from so many devotees and from the deities in Vrindavan. He took their blessings. He didn't think, well, I'm a pretty intellectual person. Let's just write something and enliven everyone. No. Let me sometimes I see devotees say, yes, I'm going so-and-so place to give association to the devotees. I've heard that from a few preachers. I said, well, please give me yours, because I'm just desiring to take association from the devotees, if they're so kind to give it to me. So we have to be careful. These are subtleties in the mind that we have to be careful that they don't creep in. I call it the senior devotee syndrome. Now I'm a senior devotee. I don't have to offer obeisances to everyone. Raghunath Das Goswami offered obeisances to 2,000 Vaishnavas daily. But I'm beyond Raghunath Das Goswami. Devotees come and offer obeisances, and I give them my blessings. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when someone would offer obeisances, in his mind he would say, Dasoshmi, I am your servant. I'm just giving, I'm accepting this position so that you can offer obeisances to the Parampara and to Krishna. But I am your servant, and I'm doing this service, very difficult service. It's a very difficult service to accept obeisances from people. But one never thinks that they are offering obeisances to me. They are offering obeisances to Krishna, and Krishna somehow or another, even though I'm unqualified, Krishna has chosen me to be that vehicle, to be that instrument, to be that, like a copper wire that just transmits the energy, the Shakti from Krishna to the devotees through Krishna Katha, and from the devotees to their devotion. I can't take any of it for myself. If I take one drop, then the whole transmission will be interfered with. I can't take one drop. I have to be transparent. So this is what's being emphasized here, this importance of seeing the blessings that come from the Vaishnavas and taking advantage of those blessings. So those are some thoughts on this verse. Any comments or questions? Yes. Maybe we'll use the microphone. Just a second. I have these hearing devices so I can hear you properly.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much.
When you get older,
for your valuable association.
One second.
Yeah.
Let me get activated here.
Shall I start, Maharaj?
Yes.
Thank you so much for your association, Maharaj, and you spoke about association. So my question is, chanting, once I heard that chanting without chanter has no meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore we have examples of Haridas Thakur and such chanters. So we get inspired. And you talk about once at least chanting offenseless holy name. So what are the symptoms of the devotees who are chanting without offenses, so that we can recognize them and we can associate? We have respect for all, but specifically we want to associate with them so that our Bhakti Lata gets nurtured. And my second question is, you talked about responsibilities, that men are getting irresponsible. So what does it mean? What are the responsibilities of men that we should try to cultivate within ourselves?
Well, the responsibility that we should accept is to obey the spiritual master and serve him, and the Vaishnavas. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. These are our 5 sources of inspiration and 5 sources of understanding our duty. Hari, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, the Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas. Sometimes people only want to hear from their Guru, because that way I won't have to surrender so much. If somebody else instructs me, just my Guru only. No Vaishnavas. Sometimes the Guru is not present. Just like here in Delhi, many people are initiated by Gopal Krishna Maharaj, but they may never see him. They may see him like coming and hear a class every 3 months or 6 months, and what to speak of his disciples somewhere else. They may see him once a year, and everybody. I'm just giving one example here. And so this is something that I'm trying to emphasize. Shiksha is so important, because we always want to be feel sheltered. So this is how our sense of duty becomes prominent. And the other shelter is the holy name. So how do we know if I'm chanting Namagana Sada Ruchi, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said? There should be an ever-increasing taste, and Name Ruchi. If I'm tasting the holy name more, and how do I know if I'm tasting it more? I want to chant more. Just like Srila Prabhupada said, one devotee asked him, how can I chant 16 rounds with quality? And Prabhupada said, 16 rounds means no quality. It means you're doing the minimum. Of course, if we're chanting 16 rounds, I would love to chant 64, but I have so much service, or I have so many responsibilities. So we're anxious to chant more. But because I have duty, like you say, so that is restricting me. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he chanted 64 rounds when he was in, not always because he was translating, but when he wasn't translating, sometimes in Vrindavan he would chant. But when he was in the West preaching, he could only chant 16 rounds because he had so much service to do. In 1968, Srila Prabhupada was speaking to a group of devotees, and he said, so you must chant minimum 16 rounds. And Prabhupada said, especially the grihastas, because the brahmacharis, well, they may chant, one day they may not chant 16 because they may have so much service, and then they have to make it up, as Prabhupada says in Nectar of Devotion. But the grihastas must chant 16 rounds, because otherwise it's so easy to become overwhelmed as a grihasta with so many responsibilities, because not only do I have responsibility of my spiritual life, I have responsibility taking care of children, making money, I have to associate with materialistic people. So therefore chanting 16 rounds for a grihasta is so much more important than, it's always important for everyone, but somehow or another a brahmachari, a very serious brahmachari, not thinking, I have so much service, therefore I'll chant 2 rounds. No. And it's not an excuse, but sometimes they may have so much service, taking care of the deities, sankirtan, cooking, these are, preaching, these are the standard services for a brahmachari. So important that we should. One devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, I'm chanting my 16 rounds. Prabhupada said, why 16? Why not 25,000? I'd like to see someone chant 25,000 rounds in one day, but no. So Prabhupada was emphasizing that, yes, if you can chant more, wonderful. We should have the desire for chanting more and more and more. Especially those of us who are a little older, we may come to the point where you can't do anything else except chant. And you can't even chant except within the mind. That can happen to anyone. As you get to a certain age, the body doesn't function anymore. So if we're not practicing, if we're not attracted to chanting, then when that moment comes, then you will be lost. You won't be able to chant. So the point is that we should chant with quality. One devotee told me, he said, I'm only chanting 1 round because I'm chanting with quality. I said, that's good. Then chant 16, trying to have more quality. Chant 15 more, trying to have some quality. And then you'll be able to chant 16 rounds with quality, and then even more. So quality and quantity, we want both. So therefore this helps us understand that being a Vaishnava is not an easy thing. Being Krishna conscious, being a pure devotee, it's not, and it shouldn't be. We should be happy that it's not an easy thing. Therefore we know we're getting the real thing. We know that we're getting something real, not something cheap, 15-minute meditation, wear this kind of medallion and you will be protected. There was one guru that said that, just wear this pendant and you'll be, you're okay. And give me donation, of course. Yeah. That's the most important thing. Pendant, donation, pendant. And you're fixed for life. Yeah. So Prabhupada never said, give me anything. He said, give it to Krishna. That's transparent. Give it to Krishna. Some people would give him so many things. Just like sometimes people gave Prabhupada a Rolex watch or something. Then he would go to the next destination and say, okay, you can sell this and put it for printing books. He would say, take it, he accepted it. But what is he going to do with a Rolex watch? Oh, sometimes he would wear one just so people would criticize him and then he could smash them. Like one man in New York Rath Yatra, 1976, Prabhupada arrived in a big Rolls Royce car, and those cars cost like millions and millions and millions of rupees, so crores. And so he got out of the car and he saw one man talking to the devotee, he saw his face. So he called the devotee. He said, so what is he complaining about? He said, why does this renunciant come in this big car? And Prabhupada said, you tell him that if he gives up sex life, he can come in the car with me. And the devotee went back and said it to the man. He went, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, one more thing. You said about that association, the quality of association. Because, and I was thinking, we are getting association from so many times, so many wonderful devotees we are coming up with every day. We are living with them. But yesterday one point came in my mind that unless and until I cultivate respect for them, then I will not value them, their association. So how to cultivate and nurture that respect for them, the devotees?
Rupa Swami tells us, for neophyte people, manasadriyata, you respect them in the mind. That is the degree of association, because they may not have good habits. Then someone who is on the same platform as you do service together with him. That is the association. We're in kirtan together. We're all basically on the same platform. But someone who is ananya bhajana, who is always absorbed in bhajan, then you serve this person. That's how association is. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also said, he said, to a more advanced devotee, we offer all service. To contemporary devotees, we take their association. And to a subordinate devotee, we offer the service of giving instruction. So that's how association works. But basically our association, we come together just like we just did, and like we're doing now. We have kirtan, we sit down, we listen to Bhagavad Gita. Not that we think, oh, this devotee is not so advanced, I'm not going to stay for the class. No, we don't think like that. We think, vayam tate vitrityama, that I never tire, I never become satiated, I never become full of hearing about Krishna. So it doesn't matter if it's a neophyte devotee, as long as he's serious, a devotee, speaking about Krishna, then I want to hear. Sometimes Prabhupada would go and hear the classes of his disciples. Not every day, but something, because he wanted to see how they were preaching. But he also had a humble mood. Just like we were discussing yesterday. That one time in New York City, devotees were all, in those days you could go into the airport, you could go into the waiting lounge before you get on the airplane. So all the devotees were there with Prabhupada. So the manager came and said, you're going to, said to one devotee, you're going to have to move out because the people have to come in to get on the flight. Because the devotees had the whole area was full with devotees. So Rupanuga Maharaj at that time, he got up and announced, said, all devotees, please leave. We have to clear the space for the passengers. Nobody moved because everybody thought, I want to be with Prabhupada. But Prabhupada got up and started leaving. He was so humble. And so he said, no, not you, Prabhupada, everybody else. So finally the devotees understood, by Prabhupada's example, they should obey. Not that you just, not like we're like the old lady who climbed on the shoulders of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to see, we're not quite that advanced. So we don't obey, we don't do what Krishna consciousness means. You must be obedient. A Shudra, the quality of a Shudra is that they're obedient. So at least we have to come to the platform of Kalo Shudra Sambhava. Be a good Shudra and be obedient. At least that much. So and when you're obedient to the Sri Guru and Vaishnava, then you are a Brahmana. When we have to obey. We have to obey Krishna's instructions. We have to obey the Bhagavatam. Krishna consciousness means obedience. So association means that. I become obedient to what I receive from that association also. Obedient to a purified heart, obedient to good instructions, obedient to Krishna Katha. Obedient means Krishna Katha, I listen carefully. Not that one time, sometimes devotees are making garlands, So one time devotees in Los Angeles, to stay awake, they would peel potatoes or cut vegetables. And so Prabhupada thought that was a little distracting. So Prabhupada said, why are you cutting vegetable? And the devotee said, because Prabhupada, I want to hear what you're saying and I'm so tired that I will fall asleep. Prabhupada thought about it. He said, all right, go ahead. And he didn't like it so much, but he thought if that will keep the devotee awake, then let him do it. Because Prabhupada thought it was a distraction, but being asleep is more of a distraction. I know one temple president, he used to have a squirt gun, like these little guns with water, and so someone would fall asleep. Of course, we would have a hard time with the people in the back. You'd have to have an intermediary. So it wasn't a very good thing to do, but anyways, his methodology of keeping everyone awake. And Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he would go, hello! Hare Krishna, devotees would wake up. So, because devotees, Mahatma Prabhu said, devotees generally, they eat too much and sleep too little. This is our tendency. Thank you very much. So thank you all very much for your kind attention. Sorry I went a little over time, but hopefully there was some benefit there.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. His Holy Guru Prasad Swami Maharaj Ji ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanandi.
Hari Hari Bo. Let's pay our sincerest gratitude to Maharaj by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. His Holiness Guru Prasad Swami Maharaj Ji ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna Prasadam ki jai. Thank you so much, Maharaj.